I have a lot of friends, along the way in my life. But to the theme of today, do I outgrow them? I think what I would say is I outgrow the conversations we were having. Because, when you're a teenager, you're constantly getting new shoes because your foot is growing. We're aging, but we're also growing.
This is the Midlife Chrysalis. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays with Chip Conley and Derek Gehl, your weekly conversation about thriving in midlife. Together, we explore the questions, insights, and practices that help you live this chapter with more purpose, vitality, and joy.
Welcome to another episode of Wisdom Wednesday on the Midlife Chrysalis podcast. My name is Derek Gehl, CEO of MEA, and we're here with
Chip Conley, the founder and executive chair.
And today, Chip,
Yeah,
we're going to talk about friends.
Oh, yes.
Friends in midlife and even outgrowing friends and that shift that you go through. And I felt it. I've seen it. And I'm trying to remember where I read this, but the average friendship I've heard it's like on a 7-year cycle.
Yeah.
A question for you. Do you have a lot of, do you still keep in touch with and have close friends from even like high school?
Well, first of all, I think friendship's a practice. And I want to quote my co-founder, Jeff Hemley, on that, because if you think of friendship as a practice, you can get better at it.
Yes.
And you practice golf, you practice yoga, you practice the violin, there's a lot of things we practice and we sort of think of it as a improvement project.
Yeah.
But we don't think about that with friendship, even though it's the most important variable for living a longer, healthier, happier life. But we're not very conscious or intentional. So we got to start with that. So I think friendship is a practice. It's meant to be something you get better at as you age. Frank Ostaseski is an MEA guest faculty member, wrote a great book called The 5 Invitations About Death. And he worked with over 1,000 people who were dying. The thing he said is the thing that people think about at the end of their life is, was I well loved and did I love well? So let's start by saying it's a really important conversation we're talking about here today. Having said that, I think for a lot of people think of friendship as a nice to have, not a need to have. It's sort of like you have furniture in a room in your house and the friends are the furniture, you're constantly moving them around, but you get really wrapped up in the wallpaper in the room as opposed to the furniture, but it's the furniture that you sort of hang out with and spend more time with. And the fact that the wallpaper and the landscape of where you're having these friends might change is less important than what furniture you're sitting in. So I would just say that's my starting point. I do have a lot of friends from childhood. I also think, one of my favorite things to do in big speeches is to have people bring out their phone, which is something you normally don't do in a big speech.
Yeah.
that means they're bored. And I have people text someone they haven't talked with in the last few months or maybe the last few years. Because I did this with Robert Waldinger, who's famous for the Harvard professor who oversees the Harvard longitudinal study on aging on people, and it really showed that the reason that the number one variable for living a longer, healthier life was social connection in midlife and beyond. And he said, I want you to text. He was giving a speech at Harvard. I was in the audience, and he said, I want you to text somebody that you have their phone number, but you haven't talked with them forever. You've maybe never have texted them before. And I want you to just tell them, that you're here and that you're thinking of them and you can, whatever else you want to say. And I did that for my friend, Alan Muchwar, who was my best friend in high school. And we went to college together. We played water polo together, but then we went separate directions. He went and played in the Olympics and became a doctor. And I, quit water polo and we joined different fraternities and I went into business, and he's somebody I really cared about and had lost touch with. And I texted him. Actually, I didn't text him. I actually sent a Facebook message to him. So I don't actually think I had his phone number. And he wrote me back. And next thing I knew, I was in a close friendship with him again.
Yeah.
But I hadn't talked to him in really in 30 or 40 years. So that's an example of a friendship practice, is how do you build bridges again?
Yeah.
And so for me, again, back to your original question, I have a lot of friends along the way in my life. But to the theme of today, do I outgrow them? I think what I would say is I outgrow the conversations we were having. Because, when you're a teenager, you're constantly getting new shoes because your foot is growing. And we're aging, but we're also growing. We are old growth humans, which means that our spirit and our interests and who we are in life is meant to grow over time. Although we may have people in our life who have stunted their growth for one reason or another. It could be addiction related. It could be they've just stopped learning. It could be they're depressed. Whatever it is, it could be that they're closed-minded. And therefore, the conversations you have with these people, which were so delightful as a teenager or in your 20s, are pretty awful these days.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say I've outgrown those people, but I have outgrown the conversations I'm having with those people. And so what I recommend for people to consider is, how might you try to see if you can grow those conversations? And so at MEA, we have this whole premise of the three vaults of communication. The first vault being the facts of your life up in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
The second vault being the stories of your life often in your heart. And the third vault being right there in the gut, your wisdom, your essence, the truth that often is not spoken. Mm-hmm. And so we help people spend time in a workshop speaking from the third vault, and we get to know each other from the inside out, meaning I'm not trying to package myself well. I'm literally open to having you know my secrets and my fears and my emotions. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know your last name, and I don't know what you do for a living, but I'm coming from that place. And when people come from that place and you reciprocate, you create this, this contagious vulnerability that is part of an MEA workshop. And yet you could do that at home. Now, a lot of people say, oh my God, I love the kind of conversation we've had here. I can't do this with my wife, or I can't do this with actually more often it's the wife saying, I can't do this with my husband, or I can't do this with my friends, or whatever. And what I would just say is, without necessarily forcing your family or friends to come to MEA, although we don't mind that, how do you just through your actions open this conversation up so that it's just a little bit more welcoming to a deeper conversation? And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. There are people in your life who you feel like they're toxic and you don't want to spend time with them anymore. You don't need to do this. I mean, you can move on. But the thing I would be careful about is saying, I've outgrown you. Yeah. I mean, who would like to hear that? I've outgrown you. You can say we've grown in different directions.
Sure.
That's fine. Mm-hmm. And that's assuming that they've grown. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt there. But, when I was a kid in church, we used to say, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver, but the other one is gold. That is the one and only time you will hear Chip sing on this podcast. We didn't have Hoda sing. If you want to hear Hoda Cockney sing, in one of our first episodes, she pulled out a guitar because she was learning guitar. She started to sing Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. Highly recommend you listen to or watch that episode. But this idea of, silver and gold, new friends are great, old friends are great. But the truth is that sometimes in order to make space for new friends, old friends need to graduate, and that friendship needs to graduate. At the same time, I really love the fact that I reached out to Alan. I really love the fact that he was really open to me having that conversation, and our spouses met, and my partner Israeli and his wife is Jewish. And so there was a new connection there. And, with Alan and me not having Jewish faith or Jewish history in our lives. And so the reality was for me that I had given up on the friendship because I saw us as two wholly different people. I also see him as probably a pretty conservative Republican, and I'm more of a progressive Democrat. And so, how's that going to go? Because that's another issue in relationships today that was less of an issue 30 years ago, is the idea of okay, are we going to be able to talk about things that are hard to talk about? Yeah. You don't start with that. I mean, frankly, I love being in an MEA workshop where we don't start with that. But by the end of the week, you start to realize oh my God, the person I've really gotten to know very well here, they're on the other side of the political aisle from me. And I really love them. And I now understand them a little, like that kind of person a little more. And obviously there's a lot of other common interests that people can have, even though if they don't have common political party. So yes, the idea of trying to reacquaint yourself to old relationships is important.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing here is true friendship requires depth of conversation, vulnerability, authenticity. And we see this unfold at MEA every week. And women are better at this than men. Yeah. Hands down. Yeah. And one of the things I find I love it, watching men come in here, guarded.
Very much.
And on day one in circle, they're like, this sucks. What did I sign up for?
Especially if they're there with their wife.
Totally. And so we had a guy at our New Year's event. He'd been in the Navy. He now works at the Pentagon. Man's man, right? Yeah. And by the end of the week, he, in his final sort of little session, he said, I didn't know people existed like this and communicated like this. And he says, I didn't realize I've spent the last 30 years working with a bunch of zombies. Yeah. And it's beautiful to see men open up and go, oh my God, we need this level of communication.
And I would say, if I were there with him, I would say, like, guess what? They might not be zombies.
Yes.
They might say the same thing about you.
Exactly.
And just know that zombie is a mirror of you.
Yeah.
And you're in a culture and an environment in which you haven't been able to do this.
Yeah.
Now, don't go and try to change the whole culture overnight, but there might be somebody amongst your work crew that you could say, hey, like once a month, are you open to like having lunch or dinner?
Yeah.
And I'd love to I'd love to know, to get to know you better. I'd love to share our wisdom together. Last week we talked about mentorship. I'd love to, maybe there's a mutual mentor and kind of relationship that could go on. But the idea of people sharing what they know, Jeff Hamui says, wisdom is not taught, it's shared. That's beautiful. And there are people out there who have the capacity, and then there's others who don't.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the challenges for some people when they come back from an MEA workshop is they have changed. And so there's been a system change with their spouse or their family or their workplace. Because they've changed, other people are a little threatened by it because like, I don't want to change. And the key there is you don't force change on anybody else. You just radiate the change. Mm-hmm. What will happen over time is if your spouse or best friend or workmate is not open to changing and you are in an evolutionary stage of your life, it is natural that that friendship or that partnership is going to actually have a bigger and bigger gap. And you will have to deal with the consequences of that. And the closer they are to you, like if they're a spouse, that is serious. It could be serious. But do not diminish your change. Because quite frankly, two people in a diminished relationship where they don't actually have any connection is also on a path to destruction. Yeah. So, better for you to actually potentially, by radiating the change, maybe your partner will shift as well. That is possible. But if you're going to actually limit your change, put clamp down on your change, you're going to be resentful. You're going to become difficult. And frankly, it's not going to be good for the relationship.
So I've been sort of experimenting with my circle of male friends.
Please. Yeah, tell us.
And it's been fascinating because I know if I had walked in, and I mean, these are all successful, pretty much A-type, doctors, C-levels, blah, 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 blah. And if I'd walk in and say, hey guys, I want to talk more about our feelings.
Yeah. They would have laughed at you.
Yeah, lead balloon, right? Yeah. And what I have found is leading it. And just being more vulnerable and authentic and having conversations and opening that door for people is all you need to do. And most people want to have that level of depth in conversation, but you have to model it for them to make it a safe place.
That's true.
So I think, if you come to MEA and go home and say, oh my God, I learned all this stuff, we're going to do this now. Yeah. It's going to...
No. You gotta be sneaky.
Sneaky, yeah.
You gotta be sneaky. You've gotta sort of like let's go watch Monday Night Football.
Yep.
And at a bar and have dinner and then have a conversation about our marriages. Yeah. I mean, you're not gonna. That's not.
You don't frame it that way.
No, you frame it. We're gonna go out there, and then you start talking about what's working, what's not working in your marriage, and like, guess what? After a beer or two, it might get interesting, and you may have actually built a new bridge. Yeah. So just like the synapses in the brain, new information, new ways of learning, build these synapses between the different parts of the brain. It's true in friendship. Yeah. If a friendship has been atrophied in all of maybe the most deeper and interesting emotional kinds of ways, and the only way you connect with each other is based upon talking about boxing or talking about something specific, the stock market, you are not building new connections in that sort of brain chemistry between the two people. And it is when the best relationships are those that actually have multiple brain chemistry synapse connections, because, wow, those are the people who you feel like, I could go out and talk with that person for hours. Yes. We could go for a long walk and I'll never be bored. And ideally, that's how our marriages are. That's how our best friends are. That's how our workmates are. But because over time we get somewhat transactional in those relationships, we don't see that there's the possibility of reopening some of those synapses and bridges. And so try it. Yeah. If it doesn't go anywhere, that's a problem.
Yeah,
it is. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have that kind of relationship with someone else.
Totally. And I think there's a spectrum for people. I have certain friends that I know I'm only ever going to get that deep. It's deep enough, but there's other ones that'll go super deep. And, the other one that was great for me was my wife, Cora Lynn, right? I mean, she's an accountant, right? She's a left brain accountant, and she's always open to my crazy adventures. So when she started this midlife, you're going to a midlife wisdom school, and But when she's come down
Mhm.
on her own and done workshops without me, it has changed how we communicate.
Yeah.
And it's given us so much as a couple already, just in terms of our ability to be more authentic, to communicate what's going on. And so, for couples, maybe you don't come down together.
You could. I mean, we actually have some couples workshops that are exclusive to couples. And then we had an actually lovely couple and their 24-year-old son.
Yeah.
Come to a wisdom workshop that I just finished. And wow, that was beautiful. But you can come separately. Yeah. And often it's the woman who comes first and the wife, and then the husband comes later in a heterosexual relationship. And that's great. But sometimes it's the opposite. I have loved seeing men come down here, have their experience, and then I say, I'm sending my wife.
Yeah.
And then later, the two of them come together to a third workshop, so they do their individual ones first. Because having a common language is so important. Yeah. It's really important. And and that's part of what, is part of the reason there's a very, a really connected MEA alumni community. Yeah. Is because it's the language and the ethos and the way of seeing the point of view that is connecting them.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you for the people that are listening, going, especially, I don't want to just focus on guys, but guys are terrible at this age. Yes. We get there and we go, oh God, all my friends were transactional. I have zero depth.
Yeah. I have, as Arthur Brooks says, I have deal friends, not real friends.
Exactly. Right. Where do we start?
Well, few different things I've said just to summarize, maybe there's somebody you reach out to that you haven't talked to in a long time. And you just say hey, I was thinking about you, would love to reconnect and see where that goes. Make a list of, the people in your life, you might put them from, let's say it's 5 guys. Let's say there's 5 guys who are friends in your life, all of whom you feel like you're outgrowing them or the friendship is not what you want it to be. Rank them from 1 to 5 in terms of maybe their most likely openness to having a deeper conversation. Yeah. And start with number 1 on the list and say okay, let's go watch Monday Night Football. And we talked about it earlier, go out and don't make it sound like it's a workshop thing or that you're going to change them. Yeah. Let's start with that and have a conversation, see where it goes. Have some questions in your back pocket. Like if you've gone to an MEA workshop, for example, you might have some questions that actually the faculty members said. Like one of my favorite questions is 10 years from now, what will you regret if you don't learn it or do it now? This is a really interesting question. It's not a threatening question. Yes, it does sort of require a little bit of internal exploration, but most people can answer this. And in midlife, it's a really interesting question because there's a sense in midlife, wow, I'm not going to be able to do some of these things 10 years from now. So you, in essence, have some prompts that might be in your back pocket if it's going somewhere. And then just see if it works with number 1 on your list, you have some confidence to maybe go to number 2 on the list. And then you get to a point where oh, guess what? Once a month, I have this group of 5 guys that, and maybe it won't be all 5, maybe just 3 of them that I get together with, and we play poker and we have this amazing conversation about everything in life. And I never thought I could have that kind of friendship with these guys. So it's doable. It is a practice. You get better at it if you practice it. And I recommend people go practice it starting this week.
Perfect. Love it. All right. Well, I think this one's a wrap.
Yeah.
And
see you next week.
See you next week. And if you
or you actually see on Friday. Yeah, because we'll see you next week with you and me.
Yes.
But yes. All right. Just so for those who know, we have a sequence of Monday and Friday. I do interviews with people out there. I'm doing most of the questioning. I'm not saying a lot about myself. And then on Wednesdays, I get to come in and Derek asks me questions on these Wisdom Wednesdays where I talk more about myself.
And broken record, but leave us a rating, leave us a review. That fuels us. It's good feedback for us. But also, one of the things we're trying to do here at MEA is create a bit of a pro-aging movement.
Yes.
And it helps us get more people. When you click that like button, you leave a comment, it then amplifies what we're doing. And that is the gift you can give us.
Thank you.
On that note, this is a wrap. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Wisdom Wednesdays on the Midlife Chrysalis. This show is produced by Midlife Media. If you have a question you'd like us to explore in a future episode, please send it to podcast@meawisdom.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, help us spread the word by subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite platform.